Hello there. I'm your host, Malena Jackson. You're listening to Family Planet365. Do you know what today is? Dun, dun, dun. Today is Friday the 13th. A very lucky day indeed. LOL. Do you believe in superstitions? That would be a good show topic. I was thinking about that last night. It's like we could spend the whole hour talking about myths and superstitions, and I wonder how many people that would actually free up. There are so many myths out there, especially around like motherhood and things with kids. That's a thought. I might have to pursue that superstition. So happy Friday the 13th to ya. Well, we're not talking about superstitions today though. Today I actually want to tackle a subject that really hit home for me. One I like to call living life by comparison and how to tame your social media addiction to avoid depression. I know that's a lot to say all at once, but it's truly in that order. I'll get an expert's view on it all. My first guest today is actually Dr. Leighton Reynolds, who is a psychoanalyst. He'll talk to us about like how social media affects the brain, and we'll have him on a little bit later. But I wanted to share my social media story with you. You know, when Facebook first came to be, I don't even know how long it's been. It hasn't been that long, but I do remember probably like in 2007, I had a friend who was like, "Hey, have you heard about Facebook? Are you on Facebook?" And I was like, "Facebook? What is that? I'm not doing that." And he was like, "Oh, it's so cool. You got to get on it." And that's what, at that time, MySpace was still on, and I dare not participate in MySpace because it was whack to me. Like, why would you have a MySpace page unless you're like a musician? But I'm not a musician, so why would I have a MySpace page? So I totally did not get that platform. But I was like, "Is that another MySpace?" And it's like, "No, it's really cool. Like, you can have friends like everywhere. People can like your stuff." And I said, "Nah, that just doesn't sound like something I'm into." So, 2 years went on, and at that time I was still on a BlackBerry because I hadn't switched over to iPhone. I think iPhone had come out like probably in 2008 if I'm not mistaken, but I was still on BlackBerry. I was not texting, and I remember my husband was like, "You need to start texting. Like, we don't have to talk on the phone. We can just text." I'm like, "Who would text? Like, why would I type a message to you? That doesn't even make sense. I could just pick up the phone and call you." Now I don't call anyone. I text everyone, right? So I finally in 2009 transitioned to the iPhone, and now I'm a texting fiend. So we'll talk about that. But anyway, so finally I decided, what, everybody started talking about Facebook. It was almost like a way of life. There was no way around it. I denied it. I suppressed the feeling for so long, and finally I gave in and I opened my Facebook account, and I want to say it was the end of 2008, because now when I go back and look at some of my some of the pictures and stuff, I'm like, wow, that was so long ago, because I was excited. I uploaded all of my family photos so everybody can see. Oh my goodness, I had my baby, here's my anniversary, here's where we went. It was just amazing, like how you could just share your life with everyone, not just anyone but everyone. Like, people send you a friend request and you say okay, and it was cool, right? I was even accepting friend requests from strangers, like people I never even met, and it was cool. It was a fun party. And as time went on though, I started noticing like, wow, this is just really taking over my life. Like, all I want to do is be on Facebook. And, every time I'm out, I just think, oh, I need to take a picture for Facebook and let people know what I'm having for lunch right now. Oh my God, I'm pumping gas. Oh, look at the gas prices. Oh, look at this car. And it's just like, where does it end? Like, what's really going on with my life? Like, I'm a mom of 4, so it's not like I have a whole bunch of time, on my hand. I really got to manage the time that I have. So fast forward to 2014, and I started realizing that, Facebook isn't as cool as I thought. Because now we have Instagram. Oh my goodness, we haven't even talked about Instagram. I'm on all of them. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I do a little YouTube here and there. Haven't got into Snapchat yet. I try to figure it out. I haven't figured that out yet, but I will. So Instagram kind of filled that void for me, because what I like about Instagram is that it's pretty like hit it and quit it. Like, you see a picture, somebody writes a caption, we're done. It's not like a whole bunch of conversation going on. And I was like, okay, I like this. But then it was that, I got to take a picture. If I'm at my child's assembly, I'm like not even really enjoying the program because I'm like taking pictures. And how how many, like, go to Disney. Like, next time you're at Disneyland, for those of you in SoCal, next time you're at Disney, just watch all the moms and the dads who really aren't even in the moment. They're so busy taking pictures of the parade or the kids that because honestly, when you're taking pictures like that, not like with a camera, cameras are kind of different, but when you have your iPhone and you're taking pictures, you really can't get into what's going on because you're focused on, well, for me anyway, you're focused on taking a great shot to share with your friends or strangers, and that's really all that matters to you in that moment. At least that's how it was for me. And I have a rule now where when I'm at an assembly, I don't take pictures. Like, literally, like, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to be here for my child. I'm going to be here at my Toastmasters meeting. I don't need to take a picture of everything. I want to be present because that stuff, you know, you start looking at with social media, like, it's a great way for people to put up this facade of, you know, especially the moms or the wives on Facebook whose husbands are just so great. Oh my God. Like, one mom, she'll take a picture of the roses her husband gave her, and he's just amazing. And you know what when I really learned that it's all just, you know, it's just smoke and mirrors. You know, you'll have a person who posts their engagement. They're so excited. I'm getting engaged. The love of my life. We're going to be together forever. They get married, great wedding, beautiful. Then 2 years later, you notice that they're not really talking about the person, or 3 years later. Because you know why? They're divorced. But they failed to mention that, right? They failed to tell their friends we've actually gone down this journey with them on this road of engagement, love, loving life. Everything's beautiful. And now they're not even together. And you know, I've actually become a social media expert. I can tell when someone's no longer in a relationship, and I use my journalistic skills, and I'm able to do a little bit of research, not too much because I do have a life, but I do a little bit of research. I'm like, you know what, they're not together anymore. And 9 times out of 10, I'm usually right. And so sometimes, like, I'll message someone, like my brother. I'll say, hey, have you noticed so-and-so hasn't really been posting this? He's like, oh yeah, you know, they're separated. I'm like, okay, I knew it. Now, I don't gossip about it, but I just want to prove my theory. So living life by comparison is important to me because I actually had a mom friend tell me 2 years ago, I was like, hey, you're not on Facebook anymore. What's going on? She's like, you know, I actually I had to deactivate my page. And I was like, why? Why would you do such a thing? And she said, because I was actually getting depressed. Like, you know, you look around and everybody's doing so well. And then I look at my life and it's like, it's not exactly what I thought it should be at this point. And then when I see my friends, and it's just, I just don't feel like I add up. Like, it was just really getting to me. And I was like, wow, that's really something to think about, you know? So we're going to talk about that today. Like, perhaps you are addicted to social media. Is there something you can do about it? We're going to have experts. I know we think social media, how can that be an addiction? How can that cause depression? But it really does. Now, if you're just tuning in, I'm your host, Malena Jackson, and you're listening to Family Planet 365 on AM 1220 KHTS. Family Planet is brought to you by The Nanny Factory. The Nanny Factory, making good help easy to find. Never, ever wonder who's going to take care of the kids while you're away. The Nanny Factory's got you covered. Register for the backup plan to ensure safe, quality care when you need it. Visit thenannyfactory.com to learn more. Okay, so we're going to have our first guest on. And when I come back, we're going to talk to Dr. Leighton Reynolds, who's going to share with us how social media could be causing our depression. More when we come back. And we're back. You are listening to Hometown Station AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Malena Jackson, and we're on Family Planet 365. Now, I have my next guest on the line, and it's Dr. Leighton Reynolds, who is a certified psychoanalyst who developed the Center for Child, Adolescents, and Family Health here in Santa Clarita, and he also has an office in Irvine. The center was developed to evaluate, assess and set up an effective holistic treatment plan for each child or adolescent, including support and guidance for the family. Dr. Reynolds works with patients who suffer from ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, autism, Asperger's syndrome, depression, anxiety, addictions, substance abuse, self-harm, you name it. Dr. Reynolds is also the author of the Seaville Wildfire Trilogy, From the Other Side of the Moon, In Search of Aginski's Mind, and What's Behind the Moon. You can find those actually on Amazon.com. Welcome, Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Malena. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
We have so much to talk about. I want to get straight into it, Dr. Reynolds. Now, today we're talking about social media addiction and maybe how the overuse of social media can possibly cause depression. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I've been thinking about this since we talked originally, and I kind of would like to reverse the cause and effect. And if I take a step back and think about depression, I think the public often thinks of depression as something that's a biochemical imbalance because the drug companies have sold people on that notion. But I think depression is more about our physiological and psychological response to loss. So I asked myself the question, why have we created a culture in which there is so much depression and so much need for antidepressive medication? What is it that we have lost? And I would reverse the cause and effect by saying I don't think it's social media that causes depression as much as people attempt to treat their depression through social media. And most people, I think, want to be on social media as a way of connecting, balancing, and in particular, we have to think about affect regulation, which is we have to have an ability to regulate our own emotions in order to have a clear mind. And I think the best way to picture that is to think about the infant. When the infant is born, it's the parent's primary responsibility to help the infant regulate their own emotional states. We're talking about joy, excitement, anxiety, fear, depression, all of this kinds of stuff. And we do that through the relationship we have with people. Well, guess what? We've created a society in which we aren't relating face-to-face as often as we used to. We're using a lot of technology to relate, and that's, to me, a huge cultural question. So when you ask the question, Malena, is there an overuse of social media? I would say yes, there is an overuse of social media, but I think it's often in an attempt to repair other problems like depression, like aloneness, and it just doesn't cut the mustard for a lot of people.
Okay, so if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Dr. Leighton Reynolds, who is actually a psychoanalyst, and he is giving us his view on how social media or depression people could be using using social media to treat depression. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so
that's what I'm thinking.
I love that. And tell me a little bit. So you're talking about how there's a lack of connection. So you mean if you have 2,500 friends on Facebook, that's not going to fill the void?
I don't think it's the deep personal connection that we need to be human beings, and I also think we have created a society in which there's way, way, way too much stimulation all the time. And consciousness, I think we don't talk about this often enough. Our own consciousness is only capable of handling a certain number of things at any one time. The original research about this said that consciousness could hold 7 items plus or minus 2. It's fascinating. But the most recent research says if you can hold 4 or 5 things in consciousness at one time, you're doing well. We're continually being bombarded, so we're continually being dysregulated. That's the word. Our emotional states are all over the place. We're fragmented. We're chaotic. We're alone. So I think people reach out to social media in some ways. I don't think this is the only reason, but one of the reasons is that the connection helps them regulate their own emotional states. But I don't think, that's my opinion, my experience, that it's a deep enough connection. It doesn't replace face-to-face. And it's a huge cultural issue, right? People aren't screaming, talking about disconnecting themselves from social media. It just continues to become more complicated.
Exactly. And so, Dr. Reynolds, tell me about the video we were chatting about. We have about a minute before we go to break. I wanted you to share that with the listeners.
Well, I appreciate my daughter finding this video, and you can find it on YouTube. It's called What's on Your Mind, and it's a short video, maybe 2 minutes at the most, but it's a great portrait of a person who is talking on social media about what's going on with his life. But then you see in reality what's going on, and it's a huge discrepancy between what he says he's doing on Facebook and what in reality is really happening with his life. And I think that goes to the cultural norm that everybody has to be okay all of the time, and the truth is we're not. The desire to create that image is huge versus saying, you know what, we've created a society that we're really not that comfortable with, and we need to do something about it. So it's what's on your mind. It's really well done. Brilliant, actually.
Okay, and we'll go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll elaborate on that a little bit more. You're listening to AM 1220 KHTS. We'll return in a minute. All right, and welcome back. You're listening to Hometown Station AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Malena Jackson, for Family Planet 365. And before we went to break, we were talking to Dr. Leighton Reynolds, who is a psychoanalyst, and he's giving us some good tips on how to curtail or to manage our social media lives so that we can have a more balanced life. Dr. Reynolds? What can you tell us to, I guess, wrap up our time together, something that can help moms or dads, especially moms who might be feeling, they are living life by comparison, and it's kind of weighing on them?
Yeah, it is. I was also thinking, Malena, that the Internet adds a new dimension to human existence. And by that I mean it's really a projection of the lives of everybody on the planet is in one place. I don't think we've ever really had that experience before, and I think we see good things because many people are doing wonderful things around the planet, and we also see terrible things happening at the same time. So I think when we think about it as a projection of who we are, then how do we manage that? And I'm very grateful to my daughter for some thoughts about this, that we really have to manage social media and not let it control our lives. The other side of that coin is I see, a good number of adolescents in particular who are very addicted because it's an affect regulating strategy for them to be on the computer because it keeps their mind balanced. But we know that it's also very isolating. So by managing, I think having a time limit, and in particular talking with your kids about how they see the Internet, a little bit about the history, about how it's different than when mom and dad grew up. What do you need? How come you're on your Internet all these hours? What does it do for you? And exploring it, I also think it's perfectly acceptable for families to say, look, we don't know what's going on here in our family. Come in and have an evaluation with a professional. Get a chance to sit with somebody who can take maybe a more objective view and develop a plan that way. And I think it's about management.
I like that, Dr. Reynolds, and I was going to ask you what's the best way to reach you if someone listening wants to actually do that, have somebody to talk to face to face.
Yes. Would you like my number?
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. It's sure. You can reach me at my office, 661-775 9438. I'm always happy to take the time out to sit with people and work with families.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Reynolds. It's been so nice to talk to you, and I appreciate you giving us your insight. We'll definitely talk more.
Gotcha. Malena, thank you very much for the opportunity, and listeners are welcome to contact me anytime.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reynolds.
Take care.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. This is a good time for a break. When we return, we're going to talk to Shannon Hall about the signs of addiction. More when we return.